Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina Osborne with ISO Stakeholder Engagement Team, and I'd like to welcome you to the RC West Oversight Committee public meeting. Committee Chair Ben Brandt from Idaho Power is not able to join us today, but he did ask the Vice Chair, Chris Hoffman from Salt River Project, to run the meeting, so Chris is here on his representing. So this is the agenda for the day. Chris is going to start off with the committee roll call, and then Tim Beach is going to cover the general RC operations update. We have Kathy Fernandez here to provide an update on the RC procedures since the August committee meeting, and Rachel Melton will go over the Q through 2021 metrics. We have some working group updates. So starting with the customer onboarding, Gina Wanzer is going to provide an update on that. Rachel Melton will talk about the data exchange working group activities. Tim will cover the real-time working group activities, and then finally Raja Tapataubula and Tricia Johnson will talk about a new joint task force that's related to cold and extreme weather contingency planning. And then we do have one decisional item on the formation of an information security working group that will be presented by Hubert Hafner. And there will be time at the end of the presentation to take questions from the public, so we'll instruct you on how to raise your hand at that time. As far as questions from the committee, feel free, if you have any questions about any of the content that we present today, feel free to raise your hand. You can select the hand icon above the chat window, and that way, I can call on you, and your lines are unmuted, so you can just make sure you unmute yourself and speak up. So we are going to start with the roll call, but first I have a couple of housekeeping items. So we are recording the meeting today. It's for information and convenience purposes only. We do ask that you request permission from RC West before reprinting any related transcriptions. That recording will be available out on the RC West webpage. You can find that by going to the Stay Informed tab on the ISO's website. So if you need any technical assistance during the call, feel free to reach out to the event producer. Shreyas is helping us out today, and she can assist you. So let's go ahead and go to the roll call. So Chris, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the spreadsheet, and we'll just go down the list.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. All right, so let me pull up the roll call list, and we'll start at the very top. So go ahead, Chris.
All right, Arizona Electric Power Co-op. Okay, how about someone from Vista?
Yeah, by the way, sorry, Chris, before, I know some of the members are still probably on the participant line. Feel free to raise your hand, and then that way I can just keep them raised. Shreyas, you don't need to open their line, but I'll just mark them after we go through the roll. After I stop sharing my document, I'll make sure that you're marked off on the roll sheet. So sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Okay, how about a Vista?
Mike Magruder.
And Brad Kalbica.
Mike. Avangrid Renewables. How about anyone from APS? I think Jim's on from Bank.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
How about anyone from Bonneville Power?
Chris Sampers here.
Thanks, Chris. Kaiso, yeah. How about Sanase?
Also, don't forget to unmute yourself if you are on the speaker line.
How about Chelan? D. Anyone on from Hetch Hetchy?
This is Lenny Skimes, and I believe Brian Pauling as well.
Thank you.
Brian Pauling's here for Hetch Hetchy.
Thanks, Brian. Anyone from City of Reading? Anyone from Douglas County? How about Grant County? Okay.
Like Prescott's on. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. And we do have Auburn Grid as well, Kit Blair.
Perfect. And I think, oh, we've got City of Reading as well.
Yeah.
Anyone from Idaho Power? Kathy
Anderson.
Perfect. Thank you. IID.
Matt Smeltzer is on.
Thanks, Matt. Lone Star. Anyone from LADWP on?
Glenn Berry is here from LA.
Thanks, Glenn. How about Los Alamos?
Cassandra's here. Cassandra Begay.
Thanks, Cassandra. MID?
Toxie Burris is here from MID.
Thanks, Toxie. How about Montana, Alberta? Anyone from Nature Inner? Power and Wind?
Yes, how are you? This is Marcus Brown, Nature Inner.
Thanks, Marcus. How about Northwestern? John, I think you're on from ND Energy.
Yep, here.
Pacific Core?
Kathy Downey for Pacific Core.
Thanks, Kathy. How about Pacific Gas and Electric?
Andrew Ellis from PG&E.
Thank you. How about Portland General?
Bob Frost and Corey McAllister from Portland.
Thanks, guys. Public Service in Mexico?
Daniel Sanchez.
Puget Sound? And
Sorrell's on. So I'll go ahead and mark Puget down.
Matt and Leanne are on from Salt River. Southern Cal Edison. Anyone on from San Diego? Seattle City Light? Anyone on from Silicon Valley? Anyone on from SMUD? Anyone on from Snohomish? Any representatives from Tacoma Power?
John Nurmberg is on. I'll go ahead and mark him off.
Thank you. How about Trans Bay Cable? On. How about Tri-State?
Pete Carmen, Tri-State G&T.
Thank you. Anyone on from Turlock? How about Valley Electric?
This is Emily Schneider from Valley Electric.
Thanks, Emily. Did anyone jump on that I may not have caught you?
I did get a few chat messages, so I'll just cross-reference. And then I'll work with Shreyas, the event producer, to promote the rest of the.
Thanks, Christina.
Sure, yeah. All right. So next we have Tim Beach on the general RC operations updates. Tim, go ahead.
Thank you, Christina and Chris, and thank you everybody for joining today. I have a general operations update for you.
Go to the next slide, please. Just on the COVID side of things, we're in our phased return to office here. Excuse me, at ISO. We started October 4th. We plan to complete that in January 18th after MLK Day. Excuse me. After that, we'll be in a hybrid situation, so we'll have some remote work and people in office, of course, going forward, just like many organizations are doing. We have a third control room set up currently. We've had that for virtually all of the pandemic. We're going to continue that availability past January 18th, just to allow for if there's any operations staff that's exposed to COVID, and but who are symptom-free. So they've had direct or indirect exposure. We allow them to continue to work right in that third control room, so they're isolated from the rest of the staff until they pass testing and timeline protocol. And then on the vaccine mandates, I imagine like everybody, we're evaluating as it moves through the courts. Generally, ISO or generally always follows the Cal OSHA instructions regarding health and safety of its workers. So we'll probably be seeing something in that area in the very near future. As a side note, many of the ISOs was on a call last week. Most of the Canadian ISOs have vaccine mandates in place already. A number of others are government, like TVA, for example, have a mandate that they're implementing currently. So it'll be interesting to see how that moves forward. And the rest of the ISOs are very much like we are currently, waiting for the court litigation and then their local state authorities to issue their direction in that regard. For summer peak load, July 9th, our 18, our summer peak was 120.6 gigawatts. That was also the day of the Boot Lake fire, if you remember. So big wildfire and peak load that day. Also, our West historical load was August 18th of 2020, R18. That's 127.6 gigawatts. That's related to the heat wave, of course, in 2020. Since we last met, we've had one energy emergency alert, and the sequential was EA1, then EA2. That a BA lost multiple generators. They deployed the reserves to recover, and then they fully deployed all available resources and curtailed their export schedules. So that put them in EA1, and then 2. They requested and received emergency assistance to recover and recover their reserve obligation. And the event duration from EA1 back to EA0 was 68 minutes. Firm load was never in jeopardy during that event, by the way. Next slide, please. So just look at the energy emergency alerts for 2021 versus 2020. We had many more EAs in 2020. Most of those were related to the heat wave, and you can see the totals there. One difference being, and I think this helped us a little bit, especially during the June heat wave, is that we had an EA watch step where utilities that were expecting to meet demand, or they were concerned about meeting their demand across the peak hour, were able to enter an EA watch and then sort of make a preemptive broadcast for energy before they got into an EA state. I know at least one time that helped one of the utilities probably avoid at least an EA1 later in the day, or the next day. So that was very good. So total of 17 in 2021 versus 47 in 2020. The other maybe potential impact has been sort of a change in the contingency reserve paradigm. There's more willingness to arm firm load or demand response for contingency reserves going forward as well. So while I sort of expected that at the beginning of the year, I thought we might see a year similar to 2020. I'm very happy to report that it didn't play out that way, at least in regards to EEA. So I'm glad I was wrong on my projection, I should say. So that's all I have on for the operations report.
Okay, any questions from the members? By the way, I know some of the members are on the participant line, so you can raise your hand and we'll promote you to a panelist. All right, we do have somebody who has their phone line open. So Trace, I don't know if you can mute them. I don't think it's intended.
Okay, sure.
Great, thank you. Okay, great. Thank you, Tim. All right, so Kathy Fernandez is going to provide an update on the RC procedures. So Kathy, are you on? Don't forget to unmute yourself, Kathy.
Sorry about that. I had one mute unmuted and then I forgot the other one. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to provide a procedure update. What's here on the screen now is the recently published procedures. The most recent were procedures relating to City of Reading, in addition on RC 100A. We had a few other minor updates, periodic review, and update for the GMD monitor with SPP taking over in February of 2022, and then a few other annual reviews and other minor updates. Do we have any questions on these recently published procedures? Okay, we can go to the next slide. And the recently published procedures continues here. Again, most of these are just annual review with minor edits only. So I think we could probably continue to the next one. So here are the upcoming procedure updates within the next month or so. Few of them have been on my radar for a little bit. We're still waiting for some information, so their internal coordination going on. And then we've got the RC120B, the data specification for JSON RCs. We're coordinating that right now. And that'll be publishing within the next week or so. We had another update for the GMD operating plan procedure, a minor update here, and then an annual review. So pretty quiet as we kind of wrap up the year. Are there any questions in regard to any of the procedure updates or recently published?
Feel free to speak up if you have any questions. All right, great. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. And Rachel Nelson is going to provide an update on the RC metrics for Q3 2021. Rachel, you on?
Yes, thanks, Christina. Can you hear me on the audio okay?
We can. Thank you.
Perfect. So for the RC metrics, the Q3 update, our first metric here is on the state estimator solutions for residual errors. We have the sum of the megawatt flow for the 500 kV, 345 and 230 kV, and then the 138 and 115 kV lines. So this shows the calculated difference between the state estimator solution flow on each line compared to its actual telemetry value. So it's overall showing the state estimator accuracy that we're seeing for RC West area. So here's our Q3 update for megawatts, and then on the next slide here, we have the megavar values for the same lines. So similar calculation here, looking at the sum of the residual errors, and we're just looking at megavar on this slide for this metric. Our next metric is looking at the RTCA non-converged contingencies. So this is a percentage of those non-converged contingencies over the total number of contingencies that we're seeing in 5-minute intervals. And as a note, we have over 8,500 contingencies solved in each RTCA solution. For DACA accuracy, our next metric is on day-ahead contingency analysis, or the DACA tool, and it's designed to identify potential contingencies in the day-ahead time frame. We have here the 2020 format as well as the 2021 format, since we're just focusing on the blue, or those contingency flow gate pairs that weren't observed in day ahead but showing up in real time. So we're looking to reduce that blue chart there. The last metric that I'm going to go over here in this meeting is regarding the city or issue resolution progress. City is our customer inquiry and dispute information system and tracks the count of tickets that are RC inquiry case record types. So we're tracking by month the number of cases that were opened, those that were closed, and then on the right-hand side, we're tracking the average business days with the CAISO support, and then the overall time to close if there's any back and forth questions, or the time to auto-close the ticket. Any questions on the metrics here today? All right, I'll turn it back over to you, Christina.
All right, thank you. So now we have updates on the working groups, starting with the customer onboarding. So Gina Wanzer is here to present that. Go ahead, Gina.
Hey, Christina, thanks. Yes, I'm Gina Wanzer with the Operations Project Coordination team, and I'm just giving a final update on the City of Reading, their final onboarding update, if you will. They did transition to a live production customer or RC entity on November 1. The transition was pretty smooth, so great job to City of Reading, Bank SMUD, the RCOS teams, as well as the WAPA teams who assisted during that time. I think everybody agreed it was a pretty smooth transition, so we appreciate everybody's work in that, and welcome City of Reading. That's it.
All right, any questions for Gina or comments from any of the members? And, you know, the phone line's unmuted, so just make sure you unmute yourself if you do have a question or comment. All right, thank you, Gina. All right, and next Rachel's going to provide an update on the data exchange working group. Back to you, Rachel.
Thank you. So on the next slide, we met for the data exchange working group back in September. We've been working through the modeling process and discussing data exchange between all of the entities. And we discussed updating the IRO 10 data specification, which was published on October 1st. We added some supporting language for implementation with the upcoming NERC standard for SIP 12. We also talked through some modeling template updates to add clarifications to the jointly owned units and dynamic schedules template, as well as the ICCP template to add the measurement RDFID column. We also discussed IRO 10 data specification for RC 120A that was published on November 1st and added some exceptions to data requests as they come in. We also discussed how the business requirements were posted for a new data reporting automation initiative. This is with respect to forecasting and seeing if there's any gaps in data and how to resolve those. And that's my update for data exchange for this year.
All right, thanks, Rachel. Any questions for Rachel before we move on to the next topic? Great, thank you, Rachel. All right, Tim, real-time operations working group.
Okay, back again. Let's go to the next slide, please. So the real-time operations working group has had a number of items that we've been working on through the summer or since we last met. Excuse me. One of the items we've reviewed is the July 9th wildfire event. We've gone over that and some of the operational lessons learned that we discussed or we'll discuss later today in the executive session. We also reviewed and approved a new Bonanza Area Operating Guide. That's an RC West theme with SPPRC. And the operating guide development was coordinated with Nevada Energy, PACE, Wacom, GESCO, and SPPRC. That's really in relation to the area in northwestern Colorado, the Craig Hayden Bonanza area. We've had a number of operations, or not, excuse me, a number of evolutions of mitigating flows in that area, and one says a complicated scheme or scene, but there's different ways to mitigate it, including arming RAS and decking generation. So we felt it was necessary to get an operating guide so we could have a consistent approach to mitigation along that seam, and it's worked very well since. continue to use it quite often, especially if there's an outage in the area. As noted with Kathy's procedure review, the RTWG goes over the procedure, gets an update on those two, and has the opportunity to comment, especially in areas where there is significant changes, and they usually vote to approve those or discuss and approve. And then on the WEC activity side, they're giving the RTWG updates, and they'll get an update later this week as well on these activities. But we've had a WEC EA advisory board that's been meeting since spring and through this summer. That's related to the EEA or the heat storm we had last year and the large number of EEAs that I showed you earlier today. And that guidelines coming out with a number of recommendations for, or not recommendations, but guidelines for working through EEAs and proactively avoiding them as well. Also, the December 13th Open Loop Event Advisory Board is finishing its work. There's a number of recommendations out for that. Currently, that preliminary recommendations, that document report is now being circulated at WEC, and we expect to see that before the end of the year is being published. Then also, we've initiated an RC to RC Wildfire Coordination Advisory Board. So if you recall, earlier this year, we had an initiative here at RC West where we worked on our wildfire coordination with our TOPs and BAs within our area. And if you could go to the next slide now, please. A bit more on that. We had the Blue Lake fire that was pretty well, but it was a fire that was felt across the interconnection. There's also a fire in the BCRC area in August that was also felt across the interconnection. And we really thought it was appropriate that the RCs and in the Western Interconnection really sort of form this advisory board or group and to develop a guideline for the RCs to how they're going to coordinate wildfires, so especially since we're having some of these wildfires that are going, impacting the interconnection as a whole versus maybe a local TOP, BA area or just an RC area. The draft scope's up comment, but it's centered on these things. It's going to identify how the RCs are currently operating, how they currently identify and monitor wildfires. So as I showed you, I believe in our last meeting, we have a WEC monitor here at RC West that we use that's pretty advanced, and we're actually continuing to increase this functionality and improve it. One of the things we're involved with is with Lawrence Livermore Labs. They have a project there where they've worked with some of the utilities in California, more at the distribution level, but it's actually going to provide usefulness to the RC or RC West. So they'll provide additional functionality to our tool. We're hoping anyhow. Also, the scope is going to identify how RCs analyze and study potential impacts when they do find a fire, and what those risks are to BS facilities and how they respond and how they coordinate with the other entities as well, especially when it comes to sharing that information, mitigating it, or system posturing to prevent or prepare for the loss of more than a facility that would impact outside of the RC area. We hope to publish this guideline by May of 2022. Right now, WEC is quite busy with the other advisory boards that they've had going for this year. So we're probably going to start this work. I talked to WEC about this last week. We're going to start this work in January of 2022, and hopefully we'll be able to wrap it up by May going forward. I think that's the last slide I have. I believe so.
Let me just check.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, any questions, Dan? All right. And Shreyas, can you promote Patrick Powers when you get a chance? Thank you. We are going to be taking a vote here soon. Okay, so the next topic we have is on a new task force on cold and extreme weather contingency planning. So I believe Raja is here to present that topic.
Hi, Christina.
Raja,
can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. This is Raja Tapidobla, CAISO Director of Operations Engineering Services. Again, this is my first meeting. I just wanted to introduce myself. So this task force is, the main objective of this task force is to develop a RC. Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So the main objective is to develop a RC West approach for cold weather standard changes, right? There's a bunch of standard changes, EOP 11, IRO 010, and TOP 003. These standards will be effective April 2023. Obviously, most of the standards are reflecting some of the requirements for generator owners, what they're supposed to do for planning for winter operations, whatnot, and extreme cold weather. And obviously, some of the standards will require RCs and TOPs to have some of the data requirements for them to get the data, and especially for operation planning analysis. So we created this task force, and the first meeting will be held on December 9th. And already there's 24 signups from APS, BPA, CAISO, and some of the other entities. If anybody else is interested to join the meeting, they can send an email to the isorc@kaiso.com and to attend these task force meetings. Now, obviously, the task force files will be stored in the DEWG library. That's the main essence of today's slide. Any questions for me? There's also a couple of meetings that we have held internally to discuss what would be our approach to some of the data requirements, how we want to set up ourselves success for this new standard changes. So once in the first meeting, we'll definitely share some of our initial proposals, and then obviously based upon with your input, we'll develop a RC West approach. Any questions?
Again, feel free to speak up if you have a question. All right, I don't think you have any questions, Raja. So next we have Hubert Hafner. He's going to talk about the formation of a new information security working group. So Hubert, are you on? And don't forget to unmute yourself, Hubert.
It looks like they have connected to the WebEx, but not to the audio.
Okay. Hubert, maybe you can raise your hand. There's a little hand icon above the chat window.
Christina, actually they cannot hear you because they have not connected to the audio.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry. Okay. Hold on a second. Just give me a moment. Sorry if I'm typing in everyone's ear here.
I just sent him the information to dial in. I hope he sees the message.
Okay. Yeah, and I sent him a private message as well.
Okay, sorry for that. My button was here.
Oh, that's okay. Hear you now,
Hubert. Sorry, you guys are ahead of schedule.
We are.
Normally,
yes.
normally a good thing. Okay, so this is the proposal is here to form within the RC West to form a working group within it to improve. Primarily, the initial initiative is really to improve our collaboration in incident response and to foster communication between security operations centers. And so that's the proposal. Then over time, as we mature and have interest, we can then actually extend that working group to have more additional objectives. And so that's basically the idea. So the idea is this is only between focus on RC West members. We will not include in here other organizations especially not the regulators. The idea is that we can foster communication without needing to have any of those considerations. The idea is threat intelligence sharing in zero-day vulnerabilities is actually responding to that, or if also communicating between the control centers, the security operations centers, if there is any joint threat, and see how we can mitigate that risk, or respond even when there is an incident response, and actually mutually help us if there is help needed. And then, of course, best practice sharing. We will have, for the support of the group, we're going to have a dedicated RC West SharePoint, where we can have all our shared documentation there, and only the RC West members will have access. And then we will also be leveraging a messaging tool that is actually currently used already by EASEC, and I know about RC West companies, and we just don't need to use any new tools. We can use what's available to us. And a good part of that tooling is actually it allows for a quick identification of subject matter experts on the other organization. So it includes a directory and lookups, so we can find within other organizations who are their counterparts. So that's the objective. So you can go to the next slide. So basically, the next steps would be actually if the Oversight Committee agrees to this and we get the go-ahead for forming such a working group. So the first next step will be we would create a SharePoint site on our RC West portal. There's a subset of it which will be limited only to those members of the working group. So it's not going to be public. It's only for members, the listed members of those groups. We'll have a roster. On that roster, the expectation is to find the information security managers of the different organizations and the managers of the security operations centers. And in regards to the confidentiality, we have an RC West NDA we will be using, and in general, the expectation is we follow the TLP, the traffic light protocol for security information, which would be TLP Amber. So yes, it's okay to share information within those organizations. We have started a pilot. We started a pilot with 4 other RC West members, and we have already been communicating with them. And then actually we have communication with EASEC and CRISP. And so the way this has been working out, so if we get information from a different channel that is of interest for the RC West members, then we would be posting that on this communication channels. We would not communicate in the other direction. So if somebody has something to report to EASEC, they would do it directly. And the next thing to do is once we have a group, we will develop a charter which would then in more detail describe what the objectives is of the working group, and we'll have that then reviewed by the Oversight Committee and approved by it. So the idea is here form a group, but at the same time already have some low-hanging fruit, which would be this communication between the SOC to SOCs. And now open to questions.
Okay, we'll take questions first, committee vote. Any questions for Hubert?
This is Keith at Tri-State.
Yeah, okay. So it looks like John Nurmberg also has his hand raised. So Keith, you go first, and then John, you can go.
Sorry, I just kind of jumped in there. No question. Just a comment. Sure. Just from Tri-State's perspective, we think this is a really good thing to pursue. We think that if we were to have a cyber event, that this venue and this sharing capability in a confidential, secure manner will be invaluable to helping overcome whatever that issue could be in the future. So kudos to the CAISO for setting this up and considering it, and I look forward to the vote.
Yes, this is John Nurmberg. I'm trying to understand the difference between what RC West is doing here and what we're leveraging out of our national resources, FBI notifications, state fusion centers, and even our large public power communications. There seems to be a lot of venues, and I'm trying to disambiguate what this group will do versus what those other groups are doing.
Yeah, so maybe answer to this. So communication with law enforcement. So each one of us has communications going on. For example, CAISO, we communicate with our fusion center here in Sacramento from California. We also have communication with EISAC, etc. So basically, each one has a star communication with those entities. And then some of attendees here, they are part of the CRISP program from EISAC, and they have also their communication. So what this adds is an extra opportunity to communicate and share within our RC West. And I think the value there is actually knowing of each other that something is happening. So if it's just another way of sharing, because currently if I share out to EISAC or to the CAL OES, and then they share out from their perspective, then there is no direct communication between within our RC West itself, and there might be things of interest just between the RC West members. And this is also being a smaller group. I only foresee within this communication to be only members of the RC West. So over time, I expect them to know each other much better. We could also, once COVID is over, we can also maybe once every quarter or maybe once a year to have a face-to-face meeting. And you know how relationships are. When you know each other better, then it's easier also to communicate, or you have some questions, and then there is, it fosters communication. So that's,
I get the kind of the central hub portion of that, of kind of having what's going on here. I'm just not sure how much that's different than when there's other attacks on utilities that we're getting notified to be kind of aware of. If do we think that we're going to see things different here just in the West versus when other control centers are being attacked, or where we see other behaviors that look like they could be a threat?
Okay. I have a working group going. I have the same setup done with the other ISOs within the US, and what I see sometimes they are bringing up issues or threats that have not even been communicated from other channels. In this case, I also leveraging the different time zones. And then you have also to consider that not all of our RC West members are highly communicated with those other instances. For example, CRISP, my understanding is there's about not even half of our RC West members are within CRISP, actually, much less than that. And they can actually bring a lot of value, because if they see something that is has been notified within CRISP and has been not brought to the attention of others, they would bring up that attention. And a lot of times just a little bit of heads up time is very valuable to all of us.
Okay, thank you. I understand.
Any other questions?
This is Brian Pauling. I do have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Brian.
Sure. Just wondering from a perspective of participation. One, are we trying to make this a requirement for utilities in the WEC region to participate, or under CAISO's footprint to participate? And then two, if that is going to be a requirement, how are we pushing that through? Is that through an IRO 10 data request type of requirement, or some other, or is this voluntary participation?
At this time, I've never considered making this a mandatory requirement. I think it's purely voluntary, and I would expect that if participants see the value of it, they will be participating because it provides value. If it doesn't provide value, then we should be abandoning it. I don't believe in enforcing anything. It has to be value. If no value, we stop it. And I'm more than happy to report up to this committee, and I don't know, every quarter or once a year, whatever you want. I can provide some metrics on participation and about activities. I don't expect, to be honest, so when, for example, I have this going on with the other ISOs, so we have 9 ISOs. At one point, we started all of 9 having this communication going on, and then there's always some attrition, people leave, but and then sometimes it gets quiet. But then, for example, on Saturday morning, we got very early in the morning. We got this notification about the FBI sending out. There was a business email compromise at the FBI, and they were sending out that emails out. So somebody, after 3 months or so of no activity at all, suddenly we had this flurry of communication happening on Saturday morning. And we heard this, you would not see this anywhere. So within our communication channels, it was the earliest you heard about this FBI incident.
Okay. One more question for you, Hubert, and that is with respect to who, from a utility, who would be sitting on this particular information security working group? Is this a technical IT person? Is this a compliance, like a SIP compliance person? What's the experience or background?
No. Yeah, no, purely security. No, we don't want compliance on this. Nothing against compliance, but really, no, the idea of this is purely security. I expect, as I mentioned before, the managers of information security or the directors of information security. I expect maybe the manager of your security operations center. Those kind of purely technical, purely security.
Got it.
Thank you. This is not to discuss any compliance violations questions. Those absolutely not. And that's why I also mentioned at the beginning, the RC West, actually, not RC West, WEC started a security working group under WEC, and that got really nowhere. And actually, it's because from the security side, we don't want to have communication going on with compliance. It needs to be walled off.
Got it. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Ryan, looks like Kathy has her hand raised up.
I do. I'm unraising it because that was kind of my question, was addressing the thought that it would be better served at a WEC where everyone could participate? Or is there thought of opening up the membership to the task force to outside of RC West?
No, the idea is kind of stay within RC West or member companies. So if another utility security group within is assigned or related to us wants to join, I think maybe that could be added in the future. But I think I would really just want to have the RC West participating members, So otherwise, this thing is going to grow from 42, I think that's the current number, to 100 to 200. And then when it gets too big, it makes a different order of magnitude to manage such a large group. We could have, if there's interest, we can form additional discussion forums where those are added, and then maybe over time, if maturity improves, then maybe we migrate into that. But for now, I prefer to focus on just the RC West.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy, it looks like Brad has his hand raised. Go ahead, Brad.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Okay. So, Brad Kalbica, Vista. I would disagree a little bit with your characterization that the WEC cybersecurity group is tied in with compliance. I think that's not really the case. And there have been several CISO people involved with that group. So the group has struggled mostly, I think, just with lack of people having time to pay attention and to attend these industry meetings. So that my concern is one more group competing for the engagement of, a small group of professionals. I see the utility in having this kind of more near real-time talking, communicating group, but I'm worried that it's going to split people's attention.
Yeah, I think you're a very valid concern. So I know. I actually, I myself has been on this cybersecurity working group. I had one of my leads participating and even being the chair, and he was also got very frustrated about the low participation rate from the industry. So that's why here we're trying to address it from a different perspective. It's not from the regulator trying to organize it, but actually from RC West, because we as the RC West, we have an intrinsic interest, or maybe the WEC also has interest. Let's not say that they don't, but we have definitely an operational high interest in all of the members to be collaborating on security matters. I think we'll see. I hope we are more successful than the CSWG was.
Any other questions before we take a committee vote? Brad, did you have more questions? Your hand is still raised. I wasn't sure.
Oh, sorry. I don't use this very often.
Just wanted to
no more
check.
questions.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right. Standing down
Christina,
the list.
Tim here.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I just got a couple comments. I think it's a great group, to increase cyber threats that we have and continue to grow. I think it's, I've on everybody's radar, and what Hubert's offering here, I think, is a great start for a working group, at least internally. Once you get kicked off, it may become very evident that, they should expand to a wider group, or at least adjacent RC participation. But I think, what Hubert's laid out here is, really a path for, what is going to be appropriate in the future, whether it remains small or grow to a wider WEC-wide audience if that's determined to be appropriate. So I just want to add that.
That clarification, Tim. All right, any other questions? Just scan the list. Does anybody have their hand? Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. So, Chris, I'm going to go ahead and pull the sheet up again, the spreadsheet, and we'll just go down the list. And I think all of the committee members have been promoted to panelists, so just feel free to speak up as we go through the list here. So hold on 1 second. Let me share the spreadsheet. Hopefully you can see that. You see that, Chris?
Yep.
All right. So we did receive 2 absentee votes, one from Sanase and also SMUD. Let me just make sure I captured it. Mark Willis from SMUD, so they did vote yes to approve.
Check. How about starting with Arizona Electric Power Co-op? Okay, Vista?
Yay.
Avangrid?
Yes.
APS? Bank?
Yes.
BPA?
Yes.
CAISO? Chelan?
Yes.
Hetch Hetchy?
Yes.
City of San Francisco, City of Reading?
Yes.
Douglas County?
Yes.
Grant County?
Yes.
Idaho Power?
Yes.
IID?
Yes.
Anyone on from Lone Star? Okay, LADWP?
Yes.
Los Alamos?
Is that a yes? Sorry, thought I heard somebody unmute their line, but I didn't hear anything. Los Alamos? Okay, we can come back to that. Odessa?
Just a reminder to please unmute your line. If you're muted on your end, please unmute and proceed. Thank you.
Thanks, Shreya.
All right, Montana, Alberta?
Yep.
Okay, Nature Inter?
You send me a chat. Yeah, send me a chat if you do. You can your vote in the chat.
How about Northwestern? Okay, NV Energy?
Yes.
Pacific Core? PG&E?
Yes.
Portland General?
Yes.
P&M?
Yes.
Okay, Puget Sound?
Yes.
And yes for Salt River. SCE?
Yes.
San Diego Gas? Okay, Seattle City? Northwestern is yes, thank you. Silicon Valley?
And Chris, Northwestern sent me a chat. They approved, and they're also obviously present.
Let's see. No one on from Silicon?
Nope. Okay.
Okay, Snohomish? How about Tacoma Power? Tacoma says no, but we will participate because it looks like this thing is going to a yes. So we're worried about dilution of our staff, and that's been talked about. Check. Thank you. Transbay. Tri-State.
Tri-State's a yes.
And TID?
TID is yes.
And Valley Electric?
PEA is a yes.
Okay. And WAPA?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Looks like it was approved.
Just for the record, MID is a yes. For some reason, I didn't hear us get announced.
Oh, that's okay. Let me go ahead and mark you as a yes. Great. Thank you. Okay. Perfect. Let me get back to our presentation. Okay, so the next request is just for future agenda items. Just so you know, we haven't scheduled the meetings for next year yet, but we will, once we have those dates, we'll for all of you. But are there any agenda items you'd like to bring up at the next meeting? It'll likely be in February. And you can always send suggestions to the rc-westoc@CISA.com mailbox.
This is Hubert again. So thank you for the votes. I'm very happy about that this got approved. I will see where we start the roster, we start the website, we start communicating out to those subject matter experts at your respective companies, and basically I will make it on the next meeting. I'll provide a status update for where we're standing with this.
Thank you, Hubert. Okay, let me just check real quick to see if we have any questions from the committee members, and then we'll go ahead and open it up to the public. Brad, I think your hand is still raised, but I'm not sure if you still had or if you had another question. If not, you can just click on the hand icon again, and it'll lower your hand. All right, so let's go ahead and take questions, comments from the public. You can raise your hand by selecting the hand icon above the chat window. If you just dialed into the meeting, you're going to need to press #2 on your telephone keypad. And we'll just give it a moment. Or you can also send your question in the chat.
There are not any questions in the queue, Christina.
Okay. Okay, well, that is actually all we have for today. Chris, do you have anything else? Otherwise, we'll just wrap up the meeting.
Nothing else on my end. Thanks, Christina.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Like I said, when we do have the meeting dates confirmed, we will send out a market notice as well as notify the committee members with the dates. So thanks, everyone. Enjoy your afternoon. By the way, for the executive session, go ahead and go to your meeting invite for the exec session. Let's plan to start at 2:15. So just give you a little break. But it is a separate web link, and so make sure you use the one in the executive session invite. So thanks, everyone.